Hello everyone and welcome back to the EDH Jank Center, your source for everything Commander and everything Jank. I'm your host Jordan or Prairies, and today we've got another budget tier list for you today. This time we are going over 10 cards you might have missed from the Brothers War. With so many products and spoilers being announced by Wizards of the Coast, I thought it'd be nice to just sit back, relax, take it easy, and review some cards from the Brothers War that you might have missed. For today's video, we've got a couple fun sub-themes going on. Number one is each color in the color pie has 2 cards in the list, and number 2 is all of these cards are under $1. And before we jump into this cheeky list, I just want to say if you really want to support the channel, check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. We've got lots of cool benefits for patrons, including a patron-only Discord that's available to all tiers of my Patreon, where we have chats about sets, spoilers, cards, deck techs, all that good MTG stuff that makes your heart warm. Anyways, let's jump into our first card of the day, which is Calamity's Wake. 1 and a white instant from the Brothers War. Exile all graveyards. Players can't cast non-creature spells this turn and exile Calamity's Wake. So I really love this as a graveyard hate card in white. It is symmetrical, so it will exile your graveyard as well. However, I think it's super useful even if it's just for drawing out counterspells from your opponents. So we know that graveyard hate can be super useful. If you're playing against a graveyard deck like a Muldrotha deck, for example, and you exile that person's graveyard, that is super useful. Even if your graveyard gets yeeted as a result as well, I think it's well worth it when you're playing against those kinds of decks. But like I mentioned earlier, I think it's also super great for baiting out counterspells. Let's say you have a Craterhoof in hand ready to go, but your opponents also know that you might have your Wincon in hand, and they're holding up counterspells because they don't want you to cast that Wincon. In this scenario, you can cast Calamity's Wake, and since it says players can't cast non-creature spells, your opponents basically have to either counter Calamity's Wake or just lose the game from your Craterhoof. And so for that scenario alone, on top of the graveyard hate it provides, on top of the instant speed, I think this card is worth an include in some decks. Especially creature heavy builds where we're not going to suffer that non-creature drawback as much as our opponents will. Alright, moving on to Loren's Escape. 1 white mana instant from the Brothers War. Target artifact or creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Scry 1. This is just short, sweet, and to the point, kiddos. This is great protection for any creature or artifact if you're running white in your deck. And it gives you like a little cheeky sneak peek. Let's go. We love to scry in white. Speaking of scrying, our next card does a lot of that. It's the Temporal Anchor. 3 blue legendary artifact from the Brothers War. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 2. Whenever you choose to put 1 or more cards on the bottom of your library while scrying, exile that many cards from the bottom of your library. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with a Temporal Anchor. So first of all, right at the gate, I think the synergy with Elegeth Crossroads Augur is obvious, and you should include this in every Elegeth deck. It basically just turns that scry ability into draw 2, which is amazing. However, I think in mono blue, this just provides incredible card advantage. Because with this card, whenever you put cards on the bottom of your library while scrying, you exile them and you're able to cast them just like you would do in red. Now, are there better ways to get card advantage in blue? Yeah, probably, but I mean, come on, it's like cents on the dollar. And I don't know about you, but my heart always goes out to the janky, underutilized cards as opposed to the staples. And I really just think this is a great card draw support effect in blue. All right, let's move on to Defabricate. 1 in a blue instant from the Brothers War, choose 1. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. If a spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Or counter target activated or triggered ability. This is a really great counter spell to me. It counters Dictate of Erebos, Cathar's Crusade, the Great Henge, all the enchantments that we're afraid of in this format. And it doesn't just send them to the graveyard, no, it yeets them into exile. And on top of that, it also gives us the option to instead counter a target activated or triggered ability, of which there are plenty of scary ones to choose from. And I just love cards that give us options, man. I think it's a great spell to run for 2 mana. You should include this in your decks. Speaking of more options, that's what our next card gives us. It's Gix's Command. 3 black sorcery from the Brothers War. Choose 2. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 creature. It gains lifelink until end of turn. Destroy each creature with power 2 or less. Return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the highest power among creatures they control. Options, baby. Versatility, utility. We love it on this channel. I think 5 mana is a pretty good cost to be able to board wipe a bunch of mana dorks or tokens or Esper Sentinels. Yeah, we can recur stuff, we can buff stuff up, we can make each opponent sacrifice their big chonky boys. Oh, I'm running out of breath, my god. Anyways, let's move on before I die. Coming up next is Hostile Negotiations. 3 in a black instant from the Brothers War. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile, then exile the top 3 cards of your library in another face-down pile. Look at the cards in each pile, then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You lose 3 life. This card is super fun. For 4 mana, we've got nice little fact or fiction-y effect going on here. At instant speed for 4 mana, I think this card advantage is already worth running in a deck. However, if you're running a graveyard deck, this is even better because the pile that goes into the graveyard, you can recur very easily with your pieces. Seems pretty D. Snag this card before it hits over $1, as it is our most expensive card in the list. Okay, moving on to Draconic Destiny. 1 red enchantment aura from the Brothers War. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying, haste, and pay 1. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, is a dragon in addition to its other types. When enchanted creature dies, return Draconic Destiny to its owner's hand. So right out the gate, I really love this card for anything that uses treasures like Baloth Baratil, for example, or a mono-red Voltron deck like Baloth Baratil, for example, or Krenko Tin Street Kingpin is also a very great choice for this card. I feel like I mentioned Baloth Baratil in almost every video, but he's just so good. All the passive treasure that he makes throughout the game will feed into that activated ability from Draconic Destiny. Or for a card like Krenko, we get to give him a buff, then we get to pay mana to give him even more buffs, and we can give him flying, haste, all for 3 mana. Come on, dude. And it has a little Rancor-esque thing where it returns itself to your hand. All right, coming up next, we got Mechanized Warfare. 1 red enchantment from the Brothers War. If a red or artifact source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +1 instead. Goblins. Friggin' goblins, dude. But actually, this basically just doubles the power of any 1/1 token in a deck where you're running red. And in an aggro token build for 3 mana and 50 cents, I think this is a great include. All right, let's move on to our green cards, the last ones of the day. First one is Fade from History. 2 green, sorcery from the Brothers War. Each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token, then destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So first of all, every Ayula deck must run this. The flavor is too good. Anyways, this is a great budget board wipe in green. That's it. Yeah. Bears and board wipes. What else do you need? All right, moving on to our last card of the day. It's Gaia's Gift. 1 in a green instant from the Brothers War. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains reach, trample, hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn, which means it can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. Damage and effects that say destroy, don't destroy it. This is another clutch, amazing protection spell, this time in green. The granting of trample is amazing. We can get so many sneaky wins in there with that. And on top of that, this is a really great card in Kosei Penitent Warlord. Not only for the fact that it gives him a +1/+1 counter, which we need to get his dope ability going. However, Gaia's Gift gives Kosei these 4 amazing keywords, allowing Daddy Kosei to group slug in for a win. All right, guys, and just like that, we are at the end of another video. Thank you so much for watching. If you dug this content, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what cards from the Brothers War you love. Did I miss anything? I'm always down there in the comments hanging out with you guys, so come on down and have a chat with me. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'm out of here. I'll see you on the next video.